Now, let me start off with you, Prince Francis Chilaka. What do you make of this particular statement from Ahmad Gumi? I recall that before now he was once a captain in the Nigerian army, so he fought the war, and also his son has been decorated also to join the Nigerian military. And he is calling for, in one breath, he was of the opinion that they should give terrorists amnesty. And at this point, he's saying, give them what they want so that peace will return, Nigeria will return to normalcy. He was juxtaposing all that is happening in Nigeria within this terrorists, between the terrorists and federal government, to the peace that the U.S. is now brokering in between Hamas, there's a Palestinian government, and the Israeli government.
Honestly speaking, I'm ashamed. And I'm completely speechless. It simply shows you that wisdom has nothing to do with old age. Wisdom has nothing to do with being an elder statesman. He's talking about negotiating with bandits and terrorists and saying, give them what they want. What do they want? Are they asking that the North should be exercised from Nigeria?
When you ask them what do they want, some of the terrorists have come up to say, we need school in the bush. We need, what's it called, hospital in the bush. We need all the basic amenities.
Were you the one that
and
told this?
In the words of Gumi, Gumi says the 25 million naira that political aspirants in buying their form should be given or should be paid to bandits.
No. See, when you say they need school, between you and I and between Nigerians, Jonathan's administration built a lot of schools in the north for Almajiris. Where are those schools today? It's these same people who came out and said they don't want Western education. That's how they started. Let us get to the history of this whole thing. It started with, Boko Haram and all of that, saying they don't want Western education. So what schools are they now asking for? How can you wake up from sleep and you say you want school, you want housing, you want this, and then you now turn yourself into a bandit? You start carrying guns, start kidnapping people, and then someone who believes he has common sense comes out and tells you, go and negotiate. What are the terms of the negotiations? So if you are asking the government to negotiate and give them what they want, you know what you're creating? You're creating a situation where non-state actors would hold government to ransom. The amnesty you talk about in the Niger Delta, did you see the Niger Delta people going to people's houses to kidnap them? Did you see them chasing people out of their ancestral homes? We need to put things in perspective in this country. We need to throw away tribal affiliation, religion, and face the reality. This is the 21st century.
All right.
And trying to make a reference between Hamas, Palestinian, and it's rubbish. The Palestinians have been seeking for a state. So their own is a different matter entirely. Because by the time you sit with these bandits and you have a negotiation with them, then the government will be stupid not to negotiate with Nnamdi Kanu and his cohorts.
Thank you so much, Prince Francis, for that. Now, let's bring this to you, Mr. Delefanimo. In the words of Gumi, I think in September, just last month, he said something about, he urged security personnel. He said, please, security agencies, don't undermine the deal. Assist and guide the bandit towards peaceful living. What do you have to say about this particular call that he is making? Remember that most times, for example, we saw in a video where the kingpin, Charles Jabello, when he went to broker peace with some community, where we also learned that he said he's going to release some persons who were being kidnapped and all that. There were persons who we saw putting on military gear, fully armed, also present in that particular meeting. Help us actually walk around this place.
If you see a dog barking at a lion in an open fight, that lion should be very careful to look beyond the dog. And if you look beyond the dog, you will see a hunter with a gun. And that is exactly what these bandits are doing to us in Nigeria. Gumi is just the spokesperson. I'm sure those in top security echelon knows some of these things. And that's why they are armstrong in dealing with these bandits. These people you call bandits are not bandits, they are terrorists. There's a difference between a bandit and a terrorist. At least English dictionary will tell you that. Now, why is somebody like Emma Power of IPO, why is he operating underground and Gumi is operating in the open? And they are looking for Emma Power. But they are, who is it powerful? Powerful. And Gumi, with authority, with gusto, is telling Nigerians that we should submit our sovereignty to non-state actors. And nobody is doing anything. Somebody who was branded a terrorist and he was banned and he was repatriated from Saudi Arabia is now coming to Nigeria to tell state actors how to appease bandits and terrorists.
Are you saying that the word of Abdurrahman Chiani, when he made mention of how complicit more like the government is in fighting terrorists, you know, he said something about them having a joint task force, trying to push these bandits from their own country. But it's more like they're finding a safe haven here in Nigeria and they're being treated.
I've said this times without number. The point is, we are not ready. And you see, the justification, just to buttress Prince's argument, the justification that you are now comparing Hamas Palestinian issue with Israel. It's sickening.
It's sickening. Okay, now I want us to contextualize what Gumi said, you know, with the reality. I mean, some local governments, some states are already discussing paying levies to bandits. So is there any different from what Gumi has said? We see that happen. Some communities come together, put together a certain amount of money and give to bandits so that they can go to farm. We have local government council chairmen already negotiating with bandits on how much to pay them. So does that detract? Is there anything different from what Gumi is asking for? Because you already see it happening.
You see, the fact that you are at war and your opponent is gaining ground, does that make you surrender? How can the state surrender to non-state ragtag elements within the country? If a country like Niger, that the population is not up to Lagos State, can rout Toji and his people, and they found safe haven in Katsina, Zamfara axis, what does that tell you? If a military that confronted dissidents in Liberia and Sierra Leone, and they came with medals, come to Nigeria.
No, within the context of, I understand what you are saying, what should be.
It's not the question of what should be.
That's what you are saying. I'm telling you that as we speak,
these people are overwhelmed because there is lack of political will on the part of government to rout these people.
So now, don't you think that shouldn't the government listen to the state and the federal listen to Gumi if the local governments are already doing that?
You are only succeeding in
Mr. Kolo, I have to interject. What the local governments are doing is not the right thing. They're just scared of their
lives. They are just scared of their lives.
So they are taking uninformed decision.
Yeah, because they themselves. You see,
but for you to no, we shouldn't encourage that.
Nobody is encouraging it. We are holding a conversation.
No, but you shouldn't tilt that conversation to that direction.
No, but that is what is happening.
Gumi has no right to say such.
But he's saying it. He's saying it.
People should tell him.
A certain level of government.
Okay, I am saying that whatever Gumi is saying on this matter is balderdash.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Delefanimo, for your submission. And for Honorable Wage, before you go out to, let's get to join this conversation. Some persons were saying, why is it that the likes of Sheikh Ahmad Gumi, who actually is playing the role of an intermediary between the federal government and bandits, he started this with the past administration, and up until today, he's still vocal with the activities of bandits or terrorists in quote in Nigeria. Why is it that he's still moving freely, as the case may be at this point? And also, let us get your opinion on what he said about giving the bandits whatever thing they want so that peace and normalcy will be restored back in Nigeria. Recall the non-kinetic approach, which this government also is embracing, which, according to them, will learn that some persons, even after the process of de-radicalization and reintegration back into society, will still go back again to continue with the business of terrorism.
Well, there is an Igbo proverb that says, when a bad thing becomes very constant, it looks as if it becomes the culture of the people. When a bad thing continues to happen over the years, it becomes a culture of the people. What has been happening with terrorism and banditry joined together in Nigeria is trying to become a culture of a certain part of the country. And it's not something that should be encouraged in any way. What Sheikh Gumi is saying, what he's proposing, is an absurdity. It is something that no sane Nigerian will support. It is something that the government shouldn't even consider at all. It is going to be one of the greatest disasters that have ever happened to Nigeria. So I think nobody should listen to that. I do not believe that the government will give an ear to that. There are so many problems in Nigeria, and to legalize and institutionalize banditry and terrorism will be a calamity. So in whatever manner, in whatever form, in whatever comparison the Sheikh has proposed is null and void in my own understanding and in my own thinking. So I strongly, vehemently oppose any type of negotiation with any terrorist or any bandit for any reason whatsoever. The government has all it takes to crush these bandits. The government has all it takes to crush these terrorists. They need to begin to take these things seriously, more serious than they have ever done, using kinetic and non-kinetic forces, and not to sit down and negotiate with them. It will become an act of institutionalizing their nefarious activities. So I don't subscribe to that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Honorable Jaffa, for your submission. Mazi David Ihoma, let's get to join the conversation, please. Recall that when Nigerians were suffering from cash crunch because of the printing of the new Naira, we saw bandits displaying, having videos and everything, stash of cash, bundles of it, when normal persons don't even have access to it. And then some persons were of the opinion that these persons are being sponsored by some political elites. For example, the governor of Maiduguri made mention of how political officers are also sponsoring this terrorists, and also Hassan Talia also talked about it too. And then if you check the people who are causing this mayhem in Nigeria, from what the city has told us, they are not Nigerians. How is it that foreigners are triumphing in Nigeria and they are actually doing that through terrorist or terrorism activity?
Well, nobody can actually dispute the fact that these people are not Nigerians. Majority of them are Nigerians. Maybe they, as a result of the boundary we have with Niger Republic and other part of Islamic Republic, when they come together, they see themselves as one. There's no how they can act without the aid of other Nigerian citizens here that are aiding them to operate. And also, you must be mindful of the fact that it cannot be disputed that politicians are sponsoring these bandits or terrorists. It cannot be disputed, because most of them actually does so in order to maybe to attract pity or kind of financial support from the federal government, or whichever way they can use it to secure their finances, and also get the what I call it, the pity of the government or other organization for financial support. And most of them also sponsor this to intimidate opponents, to subjugate opponents not to rise within the echelons of political corridor. That is what they do. You cannot actually take it aside that the terrorists or the bandits are not being sponsored by government. Most of them do so. And the one important thing you cannot understand is, what are these bandits? What are they fighting for? Are they fighting for the independent state in the north? Are they fighting for resource control? Whatever thing they are fighting for has not been defined, so that the government can actually know the reasonability of such demand, so that if actually something that can be listened to or grind the demand, then that would be done. But there's no any specific goal or objective they are fighting for, rather than going on onslaught, causing mayhem in the society. And I think that should be discouraged by all by all
Okay.
right
Now, whether
members of the public.
sorry to button at this point, Mazi David Uhoma. Now, whether we like it or not, these people are there. They have come to live with us. And in Katsina the other day, we saw 12 communities sign a peace pact with these bandits. Now, at the federal government level, could a structured peace framework, similar to what we have with the Niger Delta Amnesty Program, help address banditry in the north? Or are the conditions way too different? Are they miles apart?
The condition is quite different, because for you to negotiate, you have to understand what you are negotiating for. What are they fighting for? Are they fighting for resource control? And what are they actually fighting for that require the government to negotiate with them to at least listen to them in the first place? Because there is no any legitimate agenda they have actually initiated to be the basis upon which they can be negotiated with. There is none. So if they can come out with any objective agenda that requires the government to negotiate with them, to come in terms with them, then they can be negotiated with.
Okay.
If actually is something that affects the populace, maybe in their community, there is a specific thing they're fighting for, maybe for the dividends of government or the dividends of democracy, the government can negotiate and still to understand the basis of their action. Or if there is none, then there's no need for there's no need to negotiate with them in the first place or accede to their demand or whatever.
Talking about what they are negotiating for, how possible is it that foreigners, or are they only if maybe the military is selling us something in one breath and a different two? How possible is it for foreigners now to come into Nigeria and start, demanding from something from us? We are a sovereign nation, for crying out loud. And also, let's take it back to when all this thing started. From Borno State, when some person says Boko Haram, that is modern education, actually is illegal. And take it down again to the farmer header clashes. Marodin headers destroying people's farmland over their own grazing formula. So how do you think that the government is going to be able to harness all these people, all these groups now, and grant them what they need?
The fact is that we cannot say that they are foreigners. Although we have Fulani herdsmen in Nigeria and Fulani tribe in Nigeria, the fact is that they are very receptive in nature. When they approach them, they speak the same language, they understand themselves, they can incorporate them into their pursuits. They can incorporate them and they fight alongside with them because they believe they have this mindset that they are fighting for their expansion of Fulani estates in West Africa or Africa as a whole. It's as if when they come to them, they actually align themselves to have a specific goal which they're fighting for, either for dominance or for conquest. That must be the reason why they are alliing together to fight. But they can no foreigner can come into Nigeria without the aid of indigenous to aid them in directing them on what